Welcome to the Wrestling Source, the exclusive YouTube show of WrestlingNewsSource.com. My name's David, and I'll be here each week as we take a closer look at the current events in the world of professional wrestling. This week, is Linda's loss our gain? How much trouble is the WWE's business really in? And is the Attitude Era really over? Let's get started. Another round of great responses this week. Many of you took me to task, and I think I deserved it, for mentioning the Ultimate Warrior in my list of great past WWE Intercontinental Champions when I failed to mention names like Ricky Steamboat or even Greg the Hammer Valentine or the Honky Tonk Man, for God's sake. But remember the context. I said we used to use the Intercontinental title as a means of elevating talent to the main event picture, and that's really the context it was used for the Ultimate Warrior. Don't get me wrong, I don't think he's a greater wrestler than Ricky Steamboat or any of the other past Intercontinental champions by any stretch. I was just, using him to make my point that we use that title, or the WWE used to use that title to elevate stars to the main event picture, and I think it should go back to doing that as well. A lot of comments on Brock versus Taker. Many of you think that the Taker should go out at WrestleMania on a loss for his retirement, but all of you agree that Brock Lesnar's not the right guy. We want to hear from you some more. Let's hear some more responses. You can reach us on the internet at WrestlingNewsSource.com. You can find us on Twitter at WrestlingNewsHQ or on Facebook at Wrestling News. You can also leave your comments here on the YouTube page. We love hearing from you. Let's hear your comments. Well, as predicted in many of the major news outlets in the country, and as predicted here on the Wrestling Source, Linda McMahon did lose her bid for the Senate on Election Day this past Tuesday in a not really a blowout, but in a significant loss to Mr. Blumenthal in Connecticut. It came down about 55-45 in favor of the Democrat, and this is after Linda spent between 6 and 7 times as much money on her campaign as her competitor. Is it an embarrassing loss? No. Is it an expected loss? As we said, yes. And hopefully now the WWE can go back to focusing on the main part of its business, which is wrestling. I think that the focus that Vince and Linda both had on the campaign probably detracted from the time spent working on their business. And it's time to bring focus back to wrestling. It's time to bring focus back to the product that is the bread and butter and that gave Linda most of the money she could use for her campaign. Which brings us to our next topic, which is the WWE is in somewhat dire straits from a business perspective. Their last quarterly report shows a decline in revenue in significant portions of the business, almost everywhere except WWE Films, oddly enough. And coupled with that, this is the third consecutive quarter of losses for the WWE's pay-per-view business. Now, as I noted in my review of the Bragging Rights pay-per-view, there were a number of matches on that card that were Raw caliber matches, and in one case it was a Superstars caliber match. Could that be the reason that the WWE is having such trouble with its pay-per-view revenues and with its revenues overall? The product is feeling very stale. It's feeling like there's no build-up to a pay-per-view when the pay-per-view matches seem to mimic what we see on Raw week in and week out. And there's an argument that since people are paying for the pay-per-views, let's make them a little less PG than the television product has to be. Let's throw the blood back in there. Let's make things a little racier and a little more controversial in an effort to get people to feel like they're getting something for their money when they shell out close to $50 for a pay-per-view. It's not like it was back in the late 80s and the mid to late 80s when there were only 5 or 6 pay-per-views a year from the WWE, and they were only between $20 and $25. Pay-per-views are expensive now. They're $45, $50 a piece, and there's one a month. So we don't want to pay for a show that's going to mimic what we see for free on Monday nights. How do you think the WWE can improve its business? We want to hear from you. Leave your comments here on the YouTube screen or in one of our other outlets. We want your ideas. We want to know how you think the WWE can improve its pay-per-view business and improve the product overall. Let's hear from you. My final thoughts this week are spawned from a column that fellow Wrestling News Source writer Justin Henry made on the death of the Attitude Era. As I previously alluded to in discussing Linda McMahon's Senate run and how the end of that could mean a change for a refocus on WWE's programming, Justin makes some pretty strong comments about how if anybody expects that this means the WWE is going to go back to its old attitude ways of bloody matches and bikini contests and things like that, they should think again, because the WWE is pretty happy where it is. Linda McMahon likes the idea of hooking kids early on the product so that they become lifelong fans, and Vince doesn't need to listen to the haters anymore. He's got a product that he likes. He still gets a strong 3.0 or higher rating for Raw, and a 3.0 rating is significant for a cable show. But it's not what they're used to, and it's not what they had. And I think it has less to do with the Attitude Era and more to do with the attitude that the WWE had during that time. You got to remember, that was also a time of serious competition between the WWE and WCW, where WCW held the upper hand for a while. There is no longer a product like that. And all you folks out there who love TNA and who love ROH can leave your comments on the site and tell me about how those are better wrestling products than the WWE. Well, that's fine, but nobody's watching them, except you. And that's great for you, but it's not great for advertisers. Yes, the WWE is now attracting youthful advertisers, and they like the idea of being able to sort of dodge media criticism and dodge Parents Television Council level criticism on their product. Again, that has a lot to do with attitude. They have no competition anymore, not on Monday nights, but they do need to change the product slightly. This is an era now where more of us who are wrestling fans are also the smart marks. We visit the internet wrestling websites. We are members of the internet wrestling community. It's not just dirt sheets and the few of us who had the internet, like it was back in 1995 and 1996, when things like this first started to get rumblings underground. It's not a surprising product anymore. We saw a surprise 2 years ago at the Royal Rumble with John Cena. We saw a surprise last year with Edge, or what was supposed to be a surprise. Didn't surprise me. If that's going to be the route, we can expect to see Triple H come back at the Royal Rumble this year, and that's going to be disappointing because it's now going to be, okay, whoever got hurt recently is going to come back at the Royal Rumble and make a surprise entrance. There needs to be a better way to have surprises, and I think the only way to do that is to really expose it to solely the pay-per-view audience. We start to learn to expect how pay-per-view outcomes are going to turn out, and we expect the product to sort of be elevated because of that. We know what the outcome is going to be, so let's get an exciting show out of it that sort of pales in comparison to what we see on Monday nights. It should be more exciting. It should be more edgy. It should be better. It should be a better show that doesn't pander to a children's audience or a comfortable adults audience. Let's bring the edge back. But how to do that? I want to hear from you guys. Tell me how you think the WWE can bring the edge back if the Attitude Era is really dead, the way Justin Henry says it is. Can they adapt the Attitude Era to a new, smart fan base without having to worry about insulting kids or insulting advertisers? What do you think? We want to hear from you. Again, leave your comments here on the YouTube screen or on any one of our other outlets, and let's see what we can talk about from a perspective of how does the WWE both increase its revenue and make pay-per-views more valuable to the purchaser again. Next week, it's viewer's choice. I want to leave it up to you. Leave your comments here on the YouTube screen or in our other outlets for the topics you want to hear me talk about on the Wrestling Source. We'll take 3 or 4 of the best ones, and we'll do next week's show based on your comments. We want to hear from you, and we want to know what you want to hear about. So leave your comments here. Let us know what you want us to talk about next week on the Wrestling Source. Again, you can leave your comments here on the YouTube screen. You can find us on the internet at WrestlingNewsSource.com. You can find us on Twitter at WrestlingNewsHQ or on Facebook at Wrestling News. Again, this is David for the Wrestling Source, the exclusive YouTube show of WrestlingNewsSource.com. See you next week.